All right, parents, here we go. Back to school season is here. Get your colored pencils, get your markers, get your scissors, get your glue sticks. Can you tell I got 3 daughters? My scissors are pink and purple. Get your textbooks. I got a bunch of them because I'm a nerd. We're actually going to talk about that here in a second. Get your brand new backpack. Why can't kids just use the same backpack at least 2 years in a row? I don't know. Maybe that's a Dr. Tony's kids thing. But we are there, back to school season, and this transition from summer and fun and sleeping in and being outside and being more kind of freewheeling with our schedule is gone the day that that bus arrives or drop off is there and the bell rings. And if your family, your kiddo has any sort of challenges or honestly superpowers, as I like to look at them because they are, around ADHD and sensory, maybe even some spectrum and anxiety sort of stuff, you know that your kiddos are brilliant and creative and innovative and passionate, and they love to go fast and figure things out in a different structure than school deploys. So for sensory families, ADHD families, anxiety families, and spectrum families, the back to school season is a stressful transition. Now we're worried about difficulty falling asleep and not getting enough sleep because we got to wake up so early. Now we're worried about all the responsibilities of getting ready in the morning and getting everything together. Now we're worried again about keeping track of this schedule and staying on task and not getting overwhelmed by transitions and having behavior issues and meltdowns and tantrums and inability to focus and get poor grades and get those emails and those calls from the teacher. And the list goes on. When we get excited about back to school, which I'm an ADHD kiddo. I'm a sensory kid. Okay, I'm not a kid anymore. Middle-aged ADHD sensory person. And I loved school because the way God made my brain, it goes fast. It's a raging bull, as we like to nickname it, with some of our raging bull kiddos in practice who are hardwired in that ADHD sensory way. And what medicine says, and a lot of teachers and classic school systems say is, that's bad. Sit down, slow down, do your work, don't get in trouble, and if you do, we're going to label you and diagnose you as having something wrong with your brain, and then here's your medication so we can chemically manipulate it. Now, if the way I'm speaking about ADHD, which I have a very strong passion and conviction and a very advanced understanding of the neurophysiology behind the condition, if that resonates with you, then I really need you to listen to this whole video and especially take the action that I'll remind you about at the end, but I want to put right up front in the beginning. Download our guide. We've got 5 steps to smoother transitions for ADHD and sensory families. This is a really cool back to school guide and all sorts of content tied to it that is specifically made for your family and your incredible, just brilliant, vibrant kiddo, because a lot of times that awesomeness kind of runs into a tough spot with school because the challenges we talked about before. So what is really going on with sensory and ADHD is the real thing we need to figure out first. See, the truth is these are not just abnormal brain wirings. These are not just chemical imbalances and genetic conditions that need to be chemically manipulated and made to fall in line with everybody else. Sensory challenges, ADHD challenges are real. I lived with them. I had 20 years of being a sensory ADHD kiddo going through school and getting into college before my nervous system eventually absolutely wore out. And what was good for me is a brain that goes a million miles an hour became really bad for me when I needed to pay attention in class, when I needed to turn in my homework on time, when I needed to keep track of all the things that school brings about. So there's a blessing to ADHD and sensory wirings, and then there's stuff you got to deal with. And what this guide and this video is going to help you do is better understand the good, better navigate and become ready to adapt to and build strategies to help the not so good things that come with it, and then take it from there. So hang with us through this video. I'm going to briefly go through the science and then we'll break down the action steps, but then download that guide for sure. All right, tip number 1, get to bed earlier. This is a hard one because with summer, you probably have had later bedtimes, sleeping in, way more fun. It's literally light out later. There's more activities going on, and you just don't need to be up bright and early in the morning to get ready, get the books together, get breakfast, get on the bus, or get them in the car to drop them off from school. Get ahead of that. So if we're catching you before school is actually already started, go ahead and take a week or two ahead of time and set those sleep schedules back in motion to be more acclimated to school. When you have that raging bull, high-wired brain that a lot of sensory and ADHD kids, you run hard all day. So that brain, that nervous system is used in a major way. So it really needs more time often to fall asleep, get to sleep, and it needs that deep REM, restful sleep. So absolutely maximize sleep schedules. Number 2, get that home environment set up. You know, if you maybe you work from home a little bit, moms and dads, or even wherever you go into work, if you have your office, you know that environment matters, right? So our nervous system is constantly processing information from the external environment and the internal environment. And when we're going through school, we're paying attention, we're getting homework done, the less chaotic, or better said, the more organized, the more clean, and the more structured that external environment, the better for everybody's brain, but especially that sensory and ADHD brain. So in the guide, you'll see some tips on how to do that. Number 3, really set up a distraction-free study space, okay? This is really an extension of number 2, but wherever this happens, and that really actually matters, where does studying happening? Where is it happening? Where does homework happen? Where can your sensory ADHD kiddo go where they have a more conducive and quiet and just perfectly structured environment for them to tune in and do the work they need to do? And number 4, this is one that not a lot of people talk about, and especially number 5 may be the real golden ticket and the unlock that you've been looking for this whole time. But number 4, prioritize movement and physical activity. And if I may put an asterisk on this that will really, really play into, in a good way, your child's neurology, do so in the morning. Now, because kiddos with ADHD and sensory and those challenges tend to struggle with sleep and struggle with falling asleep, we're going to get to that. We're going to be able to give you something to really help that in a major way with number 5. But a lot of times families, they're late to get up. The morning moves real slow because their transitions and organizations are trouble. So you're rushing, you're stressed, you're late to get on the bus, throwing everything together. And also during all of that, there's no physical activity. There's no time then for movement. Do anything and everything you can to give your kiddo even just 5 to 10 minutes of physical activity. Going out and shooting hoops, doing some jumping jacks. Honestly, pick your exercise. Just going for a walk to the end of the driveway and back a few times. The way God designed us is movement activates the brain, but movement also integrates, regulates, and calms the brain. You ever had a stressful day just going through a commute or a long flight or stuck at your desk and you didn't move? Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, email after email, working on your laptop, and you physically didn't move? How was your brain? How was your focus? How was your concentration? How was your emotional regulation when you got home? Were you nice to your husband or nice to your spouse? No, the truth is when we don't move, we get cranky and our brain becomes dysregulated, discombobulated, and struggles to focus, concentrate, use its superpower of cognition and memory and learning, and it also struggles to regulate its emotions because everything happens there in the brain. So if the brain is the most important battery and air traffic control we have to succeed in school, then the best pro tip I can give you, and there's a whole book about this called Spark is the name of the book, and it talks about how really if we used exercise, and the next thing we're going to talk about neurologically-focused chiropractic, which is a movement-based science, if we used those instead of medications, my goodness, the results would be through the roof because we're actually harnessing the brain's wiring as God designed it. So get up a little bit earlier, just 10 minutes, 5 minutes, get a little exercise. Don't worry about what it is. Just get your child moving before you put them on the bus and take them to school. And you're actually going to see that they're calmer, they're better focused, they're more emotionally regulated, and they will do better in school. Now, what if you've tried all these things and more? What if you've tried not only setting sleep schedules, your home environment, the study environment? What if you've tried supplements and detoxes and cognitive behavioral therapy? What if you've tried all these things and you go, even with the perfect environment, the perfect plan, the perfect color-coded calendar, my ADHD kiddo, my sensory kiddo, my anxiety or spectrum kiddo still struggles? Well, a lot of times that struggle, especially if it's over the top and it's really interfering with your family's quality of life and your child's ability to succeed, even with the best strategies, a lot of times that is a clear sign that their central nervous system is overstressed. There's a term called subluxation, which means their nervous system's sympathetic fight or flight, so that kind of overdrive, raging bull part of the nervous system, which is really good in the short term, going for a run, playing sports, but not the one we want to be, not the mode of neurology we want to be in when we're sitting in class or trying to do homework or study for a test. So what happens is a lot of kiddos struggling with ADHD and sensory and so forth, we know that their nervous system is dysregulated and subluxated, and it's stuck in this sympathetic fight or flight overdrive. What that means is they're oversensitive and they're over stuck in fight or flight protection, and they can't get into concentration, focus, sleep, regulation. And so neurologically focused chiropractic care is the one profession, the one thing out there that can tap into that nervous system through what are called neurologically focused adjustments. And we know how to release tension stuck in that sympathetic zone. And we know how to activate and stimulate or regulate what's called the parasympathetic: rest, digest, sleep, but also regulation, concentration, and learning mode of the nervous system. A lot of kiddos' nervous systems have been overstressed all the way back since pregnancy, birth, labor, and delivery. If your kiddo was colicky, fussy, had some sensory or motor developmental challenges, had a lot of meltdowns and tantrums as a toddler and a preschooler, they don't grow out of that, like the pediatrician said. They grow into these things. We can actually find and measure that stress on their nervous system, and then we can make safe, gentle, drug-free adjustments to reset, recalibrate, and rebalance the nervous system for kiddos with ADHD and sensory. That was me. My sensory challenges, my ADHD challenges were a gift for a lot of my childhood, and then a detriment when it really came to the day-to-day functions of school. And so when I got into college and the day-to-day functions got harder, that's when my brain started to really tap out, and God sent me neurologically focused chiropractic care. I struggled my first 20 years of life not being able to sleep, not being able to pay attention in school, not really be able to keep things organized and efficient. And then I got adjusted, and everything changed. I will never forget the first day I got adjusted. I went home and slept for 14 hours straight because my nervous system was so exhausted and so overwhelmed. And that is very likely the case for your 5-year-old, your 15-year-old, and every kiddo in between if they're struggling and you've tried all the strategies and they still are. I want you to download that guide, because both the strategies and then the further, much more than I did here, this is just an introduction to the neuroscience behind ADHD and sensory, and most importantly, the neuroscience behind drug-free chiropractic care, can really help improve the quality of life of your kiddos and your family this back-to-school transition season. So if you found this video helpful, not only download the guide and take that action so we can help your family in that way, but please help us help other families who are stressing this back-to-school transition when they should be celebrating and saying, hey kiddo, go thrive, go kick butt, go have a blast. So please share this video, tag somebody in here below. And if you have any questions, as always, you can put them in the comments. You can send us a DM, whatever it takes to help your ADHD, your sensory, your anxiety, your spectrum kiddo thrive without drugs and address the root cause of their challenges and massively, incredibly improve their quality of life without all the side effects and the dangers of medications. Whatever we can do to help you do that, all you got to do is ask and we will make it happen. God bless, be well, best of luck this back to school season. Deploy these strategies, get your kiddo under neurologically focused chiropractic care if you haven't yet done that, and you will go from struggles to smiles and all sorts of fun and joy and optimal expression this back to school season.